The Denver Broncos continue to have a low-key, amazing offseason as they replace Lloyd Cushenberry on the offensive line. Lloyd Cushenberry went out and got a $18 million deal with the Tennessee Titans, and we've signed almost this entire free agent class, including a replacement center that I don't think is that far behind Cushenberry. We're going to look at the Pro Football Focus grades and break it all down. If you're new to this channel, my name is Ben. I'm hot off my spring break trip back to Colorado, where I hit up Buc-ee's in Johnstown. I'm not quite sure what all the hype is about it. We pull in and my daughter's like, we drove all the way here to go to a gas station. It was cool, but let's break down the news of the day. So the news of the day is that the Denver Broncos continue to make these incremental changes. And when you look at each one of them on face value, you don't have that massive splash that maybe we were hoping for. But if you've read books like James Clear's Atomic Habits, you know that it's like those little things stacked up over time that make a massive difference. He has a cool illustration in that book, how if you take an airplane in California and you change the tip of its nose by 3 degrees, you could change its bearing from ending up in New York City to Florida. And so like that little change that you wouldn't even notice on the tarmac makes a massive change. And that's exactly what we see here, that Sean Payton has just continued to make these like little adjustments. And by making all those little adjustments, he's changing our floor. So we know that Lloyd Cushenberry had been a really highly rated center recently, and he went out and got a massive deal. He's one of the top paid centers in the league. And so we've had the question of how are we going to replace him? And there are a lot of people saying that our signing yesterday of Throckmorton, who played center at Oregon. You've heard Alex Forsyth, maybe, who, George Payton is really high on as well. And now we went out and got a guy in Sam Mustipher, who played a lot of football for the Chicago Bears, played a lot of football for the Baltimore Ravens, and played a lot of football getting the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to a college football playoff. So when he was with Chicago, he played all 34 games. He played over 2,100 snaps for them, which is very substantial, and he definitely is a great run blocking center. And so here he is. He's, 330 pounds, 6'2". He definitely fits the part. And so now you look with Forsyth, Wattenberg, Mustipher, and Calvin Throckmorton. I think we have a really good replacement there for Lloyd Cushenberry. So a lot of people are saying, like, look at Lloyd Cushenberry. He was a 73 PFF grade. He got $18 million. He was fantastic. And if you look at Throckmorton, or Mustipher rather, he's only graded 67. And that's like there's a pretty substantial jump there. But if you are thinking that Cushenberry and you're giving your opinion of him based on just last year, you're really missing out on what did he look like before he had baller guards on either side of him. The center position, you are always in close proximity and you're basically like fighting a battle, and your success is really dependent on the guys to either side of you. And so if you look at Cushenberry just 2 years ago, before we had Quinn Meinerz the Belly and Ben Powers, like he was a completely different center. And so in the same way, I think grading Mustipher based on how he was in Chicago when he had turnstiles next to him, and then saying like, oh, he won't be as good for us. I think truly the center position is very dependent on either guys to the side of you. That's truly why right tackle and left tackle get paid so much more than those interior dudes, because as a right tackle or a left tackle, you truly are an island. And that is just like a absolutely terrifying proposition to have all of that space to fill. And so if you look at how Cushenberry did when he had Dalton Reisner, who's still a free agent and not getting signed, and then Graham Glasgow on either side of him, he was rated a 40. And so then all of a sudden you look at what is it like when you get Ben Powers, a highly priced free agent, and one of the best guards in the league in Quinn Meinerz the Belly, and you see that is when his productivity truly jumps up to an elite level. And so I think we're going to see the very same thing, whether that is Mustipher or whether that is Alex Forsyth. I think we now have the talent on either side of that center position, that as long as they are smart enough to call out the blitz schemes and to call out the run blocking scheme, I think we are in very, very good shape there. And the fact that we were able to make these replacements for just a fraction of the price that Cushenberry is getting paid, I think is really a great thing for the Denver Broncos. So just how important is the center position to this Broncos team? Sean Payton talked about the biggest thing we have to improve upon as an offense this year is we have got to get sacked a whole lot less. So Pro Football Focus just released this awesome stat chart that goes through and shows who was to blame for the pressure and then how often did pressure lead to sacks for each quarterback in the league. Very interesting to look here that by far Russell Wilson was the worst offender at being to blame for his own pressure. And when he was pressured, 21% of the time he was pressured, he got sacked. So the prevailing narrative is like, oh, Russell Wilson can roll out and make something happen. Well, most of the time he didn't, right? That when he was pressured, he got sacked more than anyone else. This is this one right here, pressure to sack. So percentage of all pressures that converted to a sack. When he was pressured, he got sacked a lot, and that really makes sense. That checks out. And then when you look at the different parts, obviously only 6% of the pressure on Russell Wilson last year was because of Lloyd Cushenberry. So that's going to be hard to replace. But again, like I said, I think the guard positions really make it easier for a center to do well. And that's why Cushenberry went from being one of the worst centers in the league to being one of the best. And the biggest change was, he got older and learned stuff, but also I think it is the guards surrounding him. So then for as much hate as Garrett Bowles has gotten in this city, he only accounted for 15% of the pressures. And then obviously Powers and McGlinchey being the worst culprit there with 27%. Although we see there was a bunch of sacks of Stidham in that last game when our right tackle McGlinchey did not play, the only game he missed all year. So hopefully that number is right a little bit closer to what it was for Bowles. A couple other things here. Very interesting thing I wanted to break down for you is that the Denver Broncos have been meeting with Michael Penix, and he visited Broncos headquarters. We also know that Penix had the only hard combine interview of the whole day was with the Broncos. They made him watch his bad film. I'm just very curious, is Penix actually the dude that Sean Payton really wants? The more I think about who I want at 12, I'm more and more feeling like if JJ's off the board, I kind of want Michael Penix. I know we shouldn't read way too much into the 40-yard draft time, but the fact that he was such an accurate thrower of the ball that he threw everywhere on the field, his receivers have come out and said he's like the most accurate quarterback they've played with their whole career and in different high school, pro, other places, and he's an absolute student of the game. And so could the fact that Sean Payton sent the whole farm out to the pro day at LSU instead of going to Penix's, could all the talk about, oh, we spent 5 hours with JJ, could all that be like a smoke screen because we really want Michael Penix Jr.? So that could be really cool. I think obviously the injuries are a red flag, but man, I think if I had to choose right now, I would choose Michael Penix Jr. Curious what you all think. Last cool piece of good news I would just say is that Kansas City Chiefs fans voted down a referendum that would involve new funding for a new stadium for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I just think it's awesome that like within our lifetime in our fandom, like we've had the Raiders jump town from the Oakland Raiders to now being the Las Vegas Raiders, like they left. You had the San Diego Chargers, now the LA Chargers, and it's a home game for the Broncos. And now the Chiefs, like even though they're on the precipice of like a back-to-back-to-back championship, they don't even like the Chiefs enough to vote for a new stadium. So I just think it's fantastic time to be a Broncos fan because look, like we're all riding in this together. And I have truly loved this ride with you. It's the community here that I love the most, more than anything else on this channel. It's awesome. I can't believe I just hit 6,000 subs. Thank you so much for being here for the ride. And I continue to hope I get better and better, investing in new cool stuff for the studio. We got a sitting standing desk, got some really cool plans for the NFL draft, and I can't wait to ride with y'all. So Broncos country, let's giddy up.